Malta, parliamentary colleagues, and disability organisations from the Arab world and also from the European Union. Can I warmly welcome this EU and Arab high-level meeting on disability rights. And I want to particularly commend Malta for showing the leadership on this particular issue and bringing us all together. I also want to commend your Prime Minister, Joseph Muscat, because that sends out a strong message to the other leaders in the Arab world and in the European Union that Prime Ministers have to be involved in the disability issue, and they have to help us to drive this issue. And in Ireland, I'm very fortunate that we have a Taoiseach Leo Varadkar, our Prime Minister, that backs and supports me in our cabinet in anything to do with disability. So I think your Prime Minister here today sends out a very strong message to the European Union and to the Arab world that we are strongly supporting people with a disability. The other point I want to make, I want to say in Ireland we strongly support the Valletta Forum. We strongly support European Union and Arab cooperation. In Ireland we're going through a lot of reforms in our disability sector. When I took over the job as Minister 3 years ago, I set myself three clear objectives. First of all was to reform the disability services. Secondly, to invest in the disability services. And thirdly, and most importantly, in line with the UN Convention for the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, is to put the person with the disability at the centre of the services. Not the department, not the minister, not other organisations. The person with the disability is the person we're talking about, and they should always be at the centre of the disability services. So in Ireland, in 2019, we're investing 1.9 billion of our social care plan, and that's an increase of 7.5% on last year. Again, it's linked into the point where we're talking about international human rights treaties and agreements. But we need to back up these with resources. So it's not just about having treaties, it's about implementing those rights on the ground. When the Convention came into force on the 19th of April in 2018, fulfilling a deeply held personal commitment of mine as Minister for Disability Issues, it requires us all to change our approach to services for people with disabilities. Ratifying the Convention offers us the opportunity to reassess our own attitudes to people with disabilities and to place a renewed focus on their place in society, to rebalance the right of people with disabilities to make decisions for themselves rather than have decisions made for them. And I think that is a crucial point. In Ireland, we have the National Disability Inclusion Strategy, which drive these reforms. We have 114 commitments, and every month I chair the National Disability Inclusion Strategy and ask every department what have they done over the last couple of months for people with disabilities. The other, if you look at Article 19 of the UN Convention about living independently and being included in the community, it provides that persons with disabilities should have access to a range of in-home, residential and other community support services. So what we're trying to do now is, in our own service plan, we're putting in 1.53 personal assistance hours to 2,535 people and 3.08 million home support hours for 8,094 people. Again, it's implementing the UN Convention on the ground by supporting people with disabilities. To meet our obligations under Article 12 and Article 7, addressing the rights of children with disabilities, we are putting additional funding to be allocated to meet the costs of those. The other important issue is, and your own Prime Minister mentioned today, dealing with the issue of people with disabilities living in their own community and taking them out of congregated settings. In Ireland, we've started that process, and we're taking people out of institutions and put them into smaller units with their own bedrooms, with their own facilities, with their own television, and with a lot of things that a lot of people take for granted, and yet with people that haven't got these in 2019. These are just some of the practical measures I raised today to improve the lives of people with disabilities. What can I say today at this international conference? The important thing is when we're talking about people with disabilities, and I speak as a parent of a daughter with an intellectual disability, we should always focus on that person. We should always focus on their ability rather than their disabilities. There are many, many millions of people across this world that have fantastic abilities, and we should always focus on their ability. Everybody has something, has a positive contribution to make to our society, and people with disabilities want to do that and be treated with respect and with dignity. Thank you.